Well, it started there, really. In my local comprehensive school, Nanty Glow, which isn't there anymore. I had an amazing music teacher, an amazing drama teacher, Chris Burkiss and Lynn Downey. And we did, an hour or two a week of drama at the comp. And then when I was 14, I joined Gwent Young People's Theatre, which was based in Abergavenny, run by Stephen Badman and Gary Meredith. And we performed 2 shows. We did shows twice a year, once outdoors in a castle, Monmouth or Abergavenny, and then once at the Borough Theatre in Abergavenny around about Christmas time. And that was it. The bug bit me. Tradition! The Gwent Young People's Theatre was run by a now defunct, unfortunately, professional theatre company called Gwent Theatre. They were a touring theatre and education company that had been into my schools previously. So it was just, that's what they did. It was, you could see professional actors. And I think, it's the age-old, if you can't see it, you can't be it. But I could see it. We were exposed to it. We rehearsed on a Saturday and the professional actors would be there, perhaps preparing for a tour. So I knew it was a possibility, that it wasn't just something ephemeral or something out of reach. Yeah, it was a deeply buried memory that came up when I was chatting to somebody else about the show. And I suddenly remembered at about 9 or 10, probably, maybe even younger, my parents took me to the Market Hall Cinema in Bramall, which is still there, which also can be a theatre. And we saw an amateur dramatics production of Fiddler on the Roof. And my infant school headmistress's husband was playing Tevye. And I guess it went in somewhere. It was deeply, deeply rooted, if not slightly deeply covered in, 25 more years of memories. But yeah, it was one of the first things I remember seeing. For young people to watch it now, I think they will understand those daughters. I have a 15-year-old son, and I presumed I understood the world he lived in, because it's only 20 years ago for me, 30 years ago. But his world is totally different. He lives in the world in a very different way to the way I lived in the world at 15. So it is absolutely something that still is happening today. Yes, this is through the lens of a Jewish community and the traditions of that faith and culture. But everybody, if they admit it, lives by a certain way of thinking, and the next generation are there to, open our minds, put a bit of grit in the oyster to get us to understand how they are in the world they will be living. The short stories that it's based on are from 1905. The musical was written in 1964. We are now in 2025, and yet it still feels, you can still watch those relationships and those conversations and absolutely understand them. And towards the end of Act 1, 5 of our male ensemble do the traditional, what has now become a traditional bottle dance, with bottles balanced on their hats with no trickery. There's no magnets, no wires, no nothing. It's just a bottle with some liquid in it to make it heavy and some floppy black hats. And they do the most extraordinary routine. And touch Formica, it's not wood, I'm in a hotel room, touch Formica, not a drop bottle yet since it opened in Regent's Park last year. So I probably cursed it now, but hey, don't tell anyone I said it. It's people. It's a doorway, a window into a community. That is a community celebration. We get the sort of opposite end of the scale in the show as well. But you watch a community living and breathing, and I think it draws you in very deeply. It's very interesting that we haven't changed a word and we haven't changed a note. Jordan Fine, our amazing director, is so respectful of text and lyric and really interested in digging into them, actually. But I think there's something about the lens Jordan has sort of applied to his vision of the play that you see a lot of us a lot more in the production. So the community are very ever present, which you think is a no-brainer. The play is about a community, but actually very often in a production, you only really get to know Tevye and his sort of immediate circle of family because they have the lion's share of things to do. But also what I think is amazing about this production, and which gives it that edge, I suppose is a really lovely way of putting it, is that all of us use our own accents and our own voices. So none of us approximate an Eastern European Yiddish accent. And I think I've said this a lot, I think it draws away the veil of sort of costume drama or feeling slightly removed from watching sort of a museum come to life. I think when you strip away those accents and you sound like people down the road or people you know, it gives it, it sharpens the edges, I think. He uses God and the audience as a result, because obviously when I speak to God, I'm sort of directly looking through and up through the audience. So it opens you up to the audience, which is lovely as well. He has a very interesting, almost, they feel more like equals, even though he's a very religious man and a very observant man and would never think of himself in that way. His conversations with God are like he's talking over the garden fence to his best friend. And I love that sort of irreverence, perhaps, that he feels so comfortable with that thing that he believes in, that he's willing to sort of slightly tussle with it, as well as, pull it up when it needs pulling up, or asking it for help. That sort of breaking the fourth wall to speak to him and therefore the audience is one of the major parts of the sort of one of your major jobs, really, is to be the lens for the audience. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to chart during the play, because as the play shifts and the dynamics of the play shifts, his relationship with God shifts as well. So it's really interesting for the actor. It's very interesting signposts for you to follow, stepping stones, which chart your journey as a character as much as your journey as an actor. Act one is a very brilliantly written comedy. Laugh a minute, beautiful production number after production number, hysterical songs. So you get all of that, which is why it's brilliant, because it sets us up so joyfully, which means the things that are to come hit even harder. But you can't do that unless everybody's very, very sort of dizzy by Act One. I didn't do Regent's Park, but that completely sold out. I think it's the highest, attendance of anything at Regent's Park ever. And then we played the Barbican, which is no small shakes, over the summer this year. And we completely sold that out as well. And actually, as we're going around the regions, we are getting amazing houses everywhere we go. So, and it's partly to do, I think, with the quality of the work. Yes, the piece is a masterwork, but the production, the cast from top to bottom are extraordinary. There are 60 of us on the road, 30 in the cast, 12 in the band, a huge wigs wardrobe, stage management, lighting, sound department. So you're getting real top quality theatre right on your doorstep.